As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, but very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. By why, I mean what's your purpose, what's your cause, what's your belief? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out.
I'm learning to manage teams by allowing the teams to do more themselves. There's a brilliant leader by the name of David Marquet who wrote a book called Turn the Ship Around. And he had an experience as a submarine captain on the USS Santa Fe where he realized that as much as he knew about submarining, he'd been a submariner his whole career, that put on this new submarine, he learned the hard way that he actually didn't know how the submarine worked. And so he realized he had no choice but to trust his people. And he went through this transformation as a leader of telling everybody what to do to allowing people to tell him what should be done. And I've learned a lot from him, and I highly recommend his book. And I've really learned that, which is, at the top of the organization, as David says, the people have all the authority. The leaders have all the authority, but at the bottom they have all the context, right? And so you can't just push all the context up, you have to push the authority down. And so the responsibility of leadership is to train people, make sure that they have the skill set, help build their confidence that they have the confidence to do what needs to be done. Yeah. They have to have competence and confidence. Right. And that's your job. That's the only job of the leader. Instead of sort of showing people how I would do it, I want them to learn how it's done, and feel good about themselves, and then just however they do it is how they do it. Yeah. And the result is remarkable. People feel better about coming to work. They feel like they have something to contribute. They feel more valuable, as opposed to just being told this is how I would do it, or I'm going to do it this way, or do it my way.
If you provide the task, the purpose of the task, and the end state of how we want it to look when it's done, that you will empower your subordinates to act and will be far more effective at getting the job done. Well, when you look at leaders' intent as it filters down through a chain of command, and I'll give you an example from our experience in special operations. Doctrinally, as we went through our mission planning process, we had to articulate what we thought our leader's intent was 2 levels above us. So our boss and our boss's boss, we had to restate what we thought their intent was and have that validated so that we could then properly form my leader's intent to provide down to my people. Now, I would interpret that differently because obviously at the strategic level, the leader's intent, when you talk about end state, it's a very big picture. Talking about what is the end state of this 500,000 acre unit that this fires on. Now, when I'm down with a crew level or smaller, my leader's intent is only going to be concerning my chunk of ground. But I'm going to make sure that my leader's intent is based on me understanding what is supposed to happen several levels above me, so that my actions, as they move from directed to delegated and highly independent, that what I'm always doing is in sync with what that senior leader wants. So I think what is anyone's responsibility to understand leader's intent in wildland fire? And let's start at the newest crew member, first-year crew member. What does that mean? On the most effective crews, what you'll find is that first-year firefighter understands the leader's intent of their squad leader, how that fits into what the SOOP wants, and ultimately what the division assignment and what the end state on the division is. Because we see all the time little modules going off, things happening. One person can get an assignment to go move cubies of water or go get saw gas. If they understand that the division assignment is that a certain amount of line has to be ready by nightfall to conduct a burnout, and they're faced with a decision back in camp because they're picking up gas from logistics, and they meet a roadblock, and they understand, well, I know that the big plan is that this has to be there so that this line can get tied in tonight before we start the burnout, then that's going to guide their decision making. It's going to guide how much risk they might be willing to take to try to get that job done. It's going to guide how hard they push the system. It's going to guide whether they let Division C get the gas versus try to make an argument for our division to get it based on the intent. All those kinds of things can guide one person's decision making that just got sent to get 10 gallons of gas.
Trust. The longer I have been in public service and the more people have asked me about leadership over the years, leadership ultimately comes down to creating conditions of trust within an organization.
Yeah, maybe hold up for a sec, Evie. Everything's starting to come together all at once here. Got it.
In 2009, I went out and I took command of the Counter-Piracy Task Force. And then about 3 or 4 days into the job, Captain Phillips was kidnapped. And so you're new to a job, a task force is a very complicated organization. You have a multitude of ships, some of the ships are from other countries. And then you're trying to synchronize and organize all of this capability and focus around a mission that no one has ever done before. Pretty clear to me, the challenge as the task force leader was defining the mission correctly in the very first few hours. You've got a multitude of ships, you've got sailors and Marines, you've got intelligence support coming in. And it would have been very easy, I think, for us to define that mission as to take out the pirates. But that would be the wrong mission success. The correct mission success would be bringing Captain Phillips home safely. But it's interesting, it doesn't sound like a big difference, but getting the correct mission defined and early communicating that to people lets people focus on what the end state needs to be. I put our enlisted people, the people on the deck plates on the team. They were uncomfortable. One of them came up to me and said, we don't do planning, we do things, we are the doers. And I said, I've got a few hours here. I need plans, options that are feasible. And the people on the deck plate, you have got to tell the people in the room whether or not what you're coming up with is feasible. Because I don't have time. They came back, and they came back with the swoosh idea that some of you may have seen in the movie, pulls away from the life raft, backs off, and does a high-speed run, sort of like a ski maneuver. She runs across in front of the life raft at 30 knots, and the waves push the life raft back. We waited 3 hours, and then they started up again, and then the second ship came in and did a swoosh maneuver. And then they started up again. And this was one of the suggestions of the enlisted people on the team. Then we used fire hoses to push them back, water to push them back. And at that point, the balance of negotiation and who had control of the situation shifted to us. Our people know they can grow up to be successful. We harvest their good ideas, we empower them, we listen to them, and we are successful as organizations.